Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here tonight. If you're new to the channel, we welcome you and appreciate you being here. Normally, I'm in a studio that I have up in Georgia at my other residence. We're in the process of moving to Florida. And so you'll see the fan in the background. And Mrs. Steve will not be by my side tonight either because she's been holding triple alt Steve and double alt Steve babysitting today. But we appreciate everybody being here. And of course, we're going to be talking about a lot of the issues that have arisen due to Judge Gull's interactions with the defense attorneys representing Allen tonight. And while you're in chat, be mindful. Let's not use any names of individuals. The only individuals that I allow are those that have been subjected to search warrants by law enforcement, arrest warrants, things of that nature. And pretty well those names are going to be Richard Allen, Keegan Klein, and Ron Logan. Those individuals are deeply immersed in this case and have been, and the courts have signed search warrants, affidavits, and everything probable cause about them. But the other names, and even with the 136-page document that was released by the defense attorneys, has names in it. There's witnesses out there. Let's just not use those names on my channel. Other channels allow it. That's fine. But I'd rather we didn't make it easy for any of the trolls just to be able to go out there and take something that's said or a name that is brought to their attention so they can go out there. We just don't want to do that here with this channel, but we appreciate everybody. But if you have any questions as we talk about tonight's topic, absolutely throw it in chat. I'll try to keep up with chat as best I can. Like I say, this last 2 weeks since my new grandson has been born, it has been, we've been off off our normal presentation. So just bear with us. We'll get caught up in a few weeks and everything will be going well. Speaking of that, I'll be leaving in just a few hours. Florida, be heading up to Georgia. Then I've got to go up to Indiana, meet with some other experts regarding some cold cases up there. And so up in Indiana, and I've got 2 or 3 meetings scheduled up there over the next week. So tonight will probably be the last show I'll have until I return next week from up north in the Midwest. So appreciate everybody being here, and thank our mods and thank everybody that supports this channel. All right, let's see here. Let's get into it here. Like I said, one of the things, of course, there's been, whereas there was a writ asking for for several opinions and findings that the defense attorneys have put out there, that this response by the Attorney General. Now, there was a couple of different responses made, one by Judge Gull, which I really have, Judge Gull's responses to the accusations against her are going to be like anyone else. They're going to be saying, this is why I made my decision. This is my opinion. This is what it was based upon. And she hired the attorneys, and they will represent her, and she would keep attorneys that would agree with her interpretations. So I really don't, while I value that information, it's not from an outside source. And so I go to finding what would be the most credible information would be from these third parties. And the ones that, while they have an interest in the law and citing legal precedents and everything that is referencing this case, that we go to those. And that will be the Attorney General's response to this, and what he has put in his multiple pages addressing this issue. And like I said, going to a third party gives you that outside perspective, although it is still regarded as attorneys that are working for the state. While the Attorney General does generally represent the state and is the highest legal authority recognized by most states, and they voice these opinions and they qualify certain findings, and that's what happened in this case. And all this legalese and stuff, I'll not try to go through this document and butcher it, and with my ability to read some of these legal terms that they use, because they use a lot of $2 words in these documents, and but I'll address how I look at a document and what that tells me, what the arguments are, and where we can find everything that we need to know, very simple and easily. So let's get started. Let me go into chat right quick and see if we got any questions. I want to thank everybody for being here. I won't be able to recognize everybody because I want you to be able to look at this document, ask any questions you have about it, and I'll answer those as we go through. All right. Good to see everybody. And let's see, just trying to keep caught up a little bit. Don't want to get too far behind. It runs a whole lot smoother when Mrs. Steve is here with me. And yeah, all the little baby Steves are getting a lot of attention right now. Someone's already talking about trolls. Oh man, if they come in, that's fine. That's what we got mods for, and no real big deal. But everybody try to be respectful, and trolls do what trolls do. They troll, and mods do what mods do. They mod. While Light Arts does anyone know if it's normal to see people wrapped in a chain around their chest when transported like Rich Allen is? I feel like I haven't seen that often in the media. A lot of times you may not see. There's a lot of different types of technologies out there of how restraints can be used and when they'll use them and some of the belly chains and the that work and support and complement the handcuffs, to locking them in around the waist so that they have limited hand movements. They're there for a purpose, and not always are they used. There's a lot of different ways. They got shock belts now. They got knee braces, and there's a lot of different technologies out there. But there's, in my career, there was, almost all the state prisoners were locked up in a similar manner during transport. That when they left the county facility, they all wore belly chains, and it was common back then. So I don't know how Indiana normally handles high profile, but it's better than him being able to grab a firearm or something. Let's see here. And just making sure I'm not too far behind in chat. All right. Okay. Anyway, as you can see here, this is the Indiana Attorney General's response to the relator Richard Allen's petition for a writ of Mandamus. And so, like I say, I'll butcher a lot of these things, so you have to be very careful. The table of contents, you can start here, and this will pretty well tell you everything about what's about to happen. And just from the title of things. Roads are named for certain reasons, and everything has a name for it for certain reason. The table of contents tells you exactly what questions we will be looking at, what questions will be answered in this, and it'll tell you exactly most everything. And we really only have 3 questions here, as you can see, 1, 2, and 3. Now, one has a multi-part question when they're talking about and asking for the court to reinstate Baldwin and Rossi. And is the appeal adequate and preferred to review? What is the a trial court abused by its discretion in removing counsel? And the question was, were the defense attorneys negligent, and could they be sanctioned or removed? And so the Attorney General looked at it, and like I said, it's a third outsourcing of information of a third party looking at this, evaluating it, and giving the state's standing and how they're looking at it. And then they talk about Allen has does not identify an absolute duty to reject the counsel's withdrawal, whereas Allen had a duty that hey, I need to address this, and I need to permit them to reinitiate, and he didn't identify that. And then they address in B1, the right to choose counsel or continue representation is not absolute. And a lot of people are going to be arguing a lot of these points. And every one of these questions, the right to counsel must be balanced with a need for a fair trial. C, the lack of record prevents a review of counsel's disqualification. And then question 2, the request that the court order trial to commence within 70 days is improper, as Allen has not requested this relief in the trial court. And then 3, the request that this court replace Judge Gull is improper, as that request has not been properly presented to the trial court. And I say that, and that everything you need to know is really on this page. You can go in there and read all the legalese and all the interpretations and the laws that are cited, or the legal citations and the interpretations, because every one of these issues is not something new to the court. And the Attorney General is looking at these things and looking at what Judge Gull filed in response, and looking at what their understanding, their research, their investigation into the topic is. And they go in there and they look, and you'll see all these table of authorities. What does this table of authorities tell you? It tells you that all these questions have been answered. There's nothing that is happening in the Allen case that hasn't happened before. And where people think that this is the most shocking, unreal issue that has ever faced the court, it's not, guys. The courts have been around for hundreds of years, and the Constitution and these attorneys and laws are set out there. There's certain precedents that are set, and the courts will look at it. And which court will it be? Will it be the Supreme Court, or will it go up through the lower courts that as you move up the ladder? Because there is a chain of command that normally occurs. And is that how it's going now? And I don't really care which court answer it and how they answer it. But you'll see both in Judge Gull's, where she cites laws, and then you got the Attorney General. And when you read all of these, and I mean, you're not talking just about one page. You're not talking about 2 pages. You're over, 2 1/4 page or 2 1/3 pages of legal citations of where the state attorney has looked at this. And you can read through this document, and they mention it, and all this legalese. And, and so that's how come I'm not worried about, will Richard Allen get a fair trial? This is something that the courts have faced time and time again, and it will be answered. And it just which one of the higher courts addresses it and how they address it, it's going to be corrected. Will Judge Gull be removed, or will she stay in her position? Is she right? Is she wrong? Doesn't matter. The other courts and everything would be addressed. and it will be worked out, and Richard Allen will get a fair trial because that's the way our court systems work. All right, let me get back over in here, and let's see what's going on. Don't want to get too far behind the chat, guys. Just have to bear with me. Like I said, Mrs. Steve is normally with me, and that is not the case tonight. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Yes, Joan, Mrs. Steve is with. She is a mama bear. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Yeah. Yes, the weather conditions. Now, if I was going to the eastern side of the United States, not so much, but I've got a window of opportunity to go up to Indiana and even northern Indiana and not get snowbound. Don't want to get snowbound. Shouldn't Richard Allen have had a choice of lawyers? He has a right to a speedy trial. And within these documents, that was addressed. And let me see what page that is on, and we'll go look at that right quick while we have that, because it's there. Let's see here. Page 11, I think. All right, let's go down to page 11. Let's see. Right to choose counsel or continue representation is not absolute. And so they look at it. Those who do not need counsel appointed also have the constitutional right to choose counsel. So if you hire your own, then you have the right to choose. But for the appointed, it says for appointed or retained counsel, a distinct right to continuity of representation, and the court has rejected a constitutional right to a meaningful relationship with counsel. But the Sixth Amendment of ensuring a fair trial imposes a baseline requirement of competence on whatever lawyers is chosen or appointed. And that is the baseline, is that the chosen attorneys have to have competence. And so the right to choose counsel is not absolute, while the right to select and be represented by one's preferred attorney is so, but it's not guaranteed. It's not absolute. And so with that in mind, we have to say that that there's precedent set out there that nothing's absolute when it's appointed, and that the trial judge has the ability to do what they see right. And he has a right to a speedy trial, yes, but he has to go through the trial attorneys first. He cannot, through this writ, say, I want the speedy trial. He had to do it through the courts, and he hasn't done that. And so with that, it won't fly. Let's see. Let me get back into chat over here. See what's going on in chat. And yeah, attorneys listen to lawyers go over the previous documents, not this response. It's all made a lot of more sense, but I've listened to 3 different lawyers, and I'm not an attorney. But like I said, that's how come I just look at the introduction of what is being asked, and that tells me what's going to be. And at the end of the day, that it's been refused, it's been rejected by the Attorney General, which means nothing. The courts still have, regardless of what the Attorney General has found, and the Attorney General's opinions means, other than that, there appears to be that Judge Gull has legal standing to do exactly what she did. Her and her attorneys, of course, are going to proclaim that to the end of days. I had a job to do. I did it to the best of my abilities, and I'm standing by it. The Attorney General has looked at it and seems to say that, yes, she had a right to do this. She did what she thought was correct. And these are the reasons that I believe that she is correct. And and that at the end of the day is where we're at right now. Doesn't mean that another court or another higher court than what Judge Gull is won't come in and say, hey, we need to address this a little bit. And they may address it, and they will address anything that they see that needs to be fixed. Like I said, it's a non-issue. I don't worry. This is all small stuff. I know a lot of people out there trying to make a lot of hay with it, but it's really not. Thank you, Rottweilers. You are awesome, Steve. Sorry I'm late. Going back to start now. Thank you. Appreciate it. And as always, now that I've got my blue light going, appreciate that. You get a blue light now that I've got my mobile travel blue light. Thank y'all for the support. I'll use that. Like I said, I'm leaving in just a few hours. Will the system get all this legit in order to get the right conviction? Well, may or may not be a conviction, but there'll be whatever the jury, whatever the prosecution and the defense, what they present to the jury. And at the end of the day, the findings of the court, we have to respect. If he is found guilty and convicted, so be it. If he is found innocent and not guilty, so be it. And then, of course, we have to look at who is the ones responsible. And right now, Allen is considered innocent until proven guilty. We give him that. It's guaranteed within the Constitution. So we have to appreciate where we're standing at right now. This has happened before. All these legal citations, absolutely. There's things in there that these judges and the courts, it's not just this. There's been hundreds, if not thousands, of arguments about who can represent who at what time and how. And whenever someone is, not working in the best faith, do we have documents that are being leaked, or attorneys attempting to outflank gag orders and things? All that's happened in the past, and attorneys have faced all different types of sanctions and everything, both on the prosecution and the defense side. So there's issues out there, and everything has happened at some point or another, and it's going to get ironed out. Hello, everybody. Now, this would be a great argument in court. Great point, Steve. There is a Waffle House full of precedents. That's a great statement. I wish an attorney would use that. Oh, for you guys who are new to the channel, in law enforcement, Waffle House is a place of where I have a lot of great memories. Let's see here. Just trying to get caught up. Oh my goodness. It's going to be 22 degrees tonight. I think it's going to be warming up though by the time I get up there. And this is a good point. It is only shocking because of the high profile. And we have so many new people and people that are unaware of everything that goes on in the court system, and they're shocked. And we have such a ability now to go out there and bring these high profile cases to the forefront, where everyone can just come home after a day of work, flip on the computer. This Google machine will absolutely just throw it up there. And we have so many people out there and bring in awareness to the case. And some of them bring in awareness in ways that create a lot of controversy, but it still brings awareness. And through that awareness, everyone will get a better understanding of our court system. Through the writ, if you're talking about speedy trial, in the writ, he says he does, but that has not been offered in the trial court. And the Attorney General threw back that for this to be addressed, you need to do it in trial. This writ is not going to be the way that you're going to request a speedy trial. Can he still request a speedy trial? I would assume so, but he has to go through the proper procedure. And the proper procedure would be that his attorneys would have to make that request and at a hearing. And I don't know, with the new attorneys, will they be offered? And I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they will have the exact same option of addressing that issue or not. Or the higher courts will address that issue and say that, yes, we're going to have a hearing on that. How many times have you seen the Supreme Court monitoring the pretrial proceedings and taking up a file? I believe the day it was filed, and the Attorney General refused to defend the judge. The Attorney General, if you look up, which I did pre-show, the duties of the Attorney General, and there are a lot of duties that the Attorney General has, and it's not uncommon. And I didn't know that I always thought the Attorney General always had to address all the Supreme Court issues and the lawsuits. But I saw in the wiki definition that that's not always the case, that they can pick and choose, and they don't always have to defend the state or a judge. And so I found that interesting. Although in this case, we do see that at the final moments, the Attorney General did file these findings and supporting that from the state's view that Judge Gull has the ability to do what she did, and that the writ doesn't have standing. And so if it doesn't have standing, then it's going to go nowhere. But how many times I've seen it in the Supreme Court, you see that a lot of times where the Attorney General has instantly filed some type of lawsuit against the federal government. But no, I don't know. I've never really kept up with with the court system. I'm not an attorney. You could ask some of these attorneys, and they would have a clear understanding of how many times that is. And so some of the attorney channels out there would be that would be a great question for them, Kimosabe. Let's see. Let's see. Trying to get in here. There we go. Bear with me on when I do this, because like I said, something else happened. I'm supposed to have a mobile blue light, and I don't know what happened, so I'll have to get caught back up. Yes, Alley Cat, we're not so much into this conspiracy. Steve, is that your version of Solomon's wisdom? There's nothing new under the sun. There's not. Like I said, there's only been very few people in this world have ever had an original thought, and I'm not one of them. And so, these attorneys, whenever they go to the courts, and that's where you have to look at some of these judges, that they're so sound and they're so based. Not all judges, but there's the vast majority of them. They're judges for a reason. That they've been through the court systems. They've seen just about everything, and they have a vast understanding of the law, and they have law clerks, which ups their IQ considerably, because law clerks are the hardest working people in the world. And so they have, and the through the district attorneys and all these other the state attorney generals. They all have all different types of clerks and everybody. And now with the internet, the court IQ is extremely high. So there's not anything new out there. Now, that doesn't mean that the Supreme Court won't find and set a new precedent. It happens because not every decision, there's always certain things that can arise that little, that the puzzle piece is just a little bit different, and we have to address something. But almost, and they will address those things when it meets that there's something that hasn't been answered through some type of former decision, that they'll go in there, open it up, and readdress it. And we see that sometimes. And Rick, you're absolutely correct. That's at bottom, at the end of the day, no matter who we are, what stance we at. Now, there's a lot of people out there that's not going to be happy with, regardless of how it is, that if everybody says that they're standing with Judge Gull, that if she's removed, they're going to be upset. Everyone that's standing with the defense attorneys, if they get removed, they're going to be upset. And so there's going to be, either way, it's not, there's going to be a section of the population that is unhappy. But we just want that in general, that the majority of us, that we want everything to run smoothly, and it will. Yes, and everybody in the world has hired attorneys, and that tells you how complicated the cases are, and the issues that the court's facing, and the issues that the attorney. And the only one I really see any issue with, of course, is Baldwin more than anybody, because like I said, Rosie, or Rosie, or how you pronounce his name, I have a lot more respect for him after I heard the. Or not heard, but read the recording. I don't think, have the new attorneys talked to Richard Allen? Has he accepted their representation? They've been appointed by the court. And so either he's going to represent himself, or he has to take their representation. I knew this. I knew this is what. No, there was a famous movie, whereas no judge wants their case or any type of appellate issues and their findings overturned. What was it? My Cousin Vinny, I think it was, where that was mentioned. Maybe, I think, I can't remember, but it's one of those movies, and that's true. No judge wants any type of findings within their court and to be overturned. Okay, in the state of Indiana, he has 100 days after the first hearing to ask for a speedy trial. He said he filed one, but his lawyers didn't put it in. And so if that's true, then once again, his attorneys failed him. Yeah, there is a lot of chaos. I will agree with that. And Molly, yes, the outcome of the Supreme Court that results in the least likely possibility verdict is overturned. And that's what hopefully the courts will find. I will be everywhere from near Delphi to Bloomington to Columbus to there's another place that'll be in Indiana. So I'll be all over the state. I've got several meetings up there. We don't even know. Good question. Any idea how long it takes the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court may not even address it, or they may throw it to a lower court that's above Judge Gull's court, and that's what the Attorney General, or maybe it was Gull's in her response, that there's other ways that should have went rather than straight to the top. Whatever law clerk wrote that 136-page memo, yes. But now in some of Baldwin's statements, he made some of his structuring of his sentences were very similar to what was in those 136 pages. But that doesn't mean that that wasn't a dictation, and then someone just typed out word for word what he said, and so that could be that wasn't dressed up. this is an understatement. I call it a dime store novel. I've never seen anything like it, but it was interesting. And you're correct on this. The citations in that document are nothing like when you look at the citations of this document by the Attorney General and the citations in Judge Gull's response. They're there's far more citations over here than what was in that. Hello, Joe. And Molly, you're correct. Yeah, Rosie, he, and I understand. I understand exactly where you're coming from. That he may have not been aware of everything, and most certainly it appears that way from the transcripts that we read of the recordings in the judge's chamber. I heard that the new attorneys met RA when they were announced that day that the judge let his attorneys go. I don't know if this is true. If she was going to be, and she knew what her findings would be and what was going to happen that day, she would have probably had that if Richard Allen was in court, that at some point she was going to introduce them, and I would have expected that would be that this statement here is true. And that they would have been on site so that they could have went ahead and got that introduction and understanding of who his new representation would be. And Digital says, seemed like Richard Allen could reject at least the one lawyer who's spoken out publicly about this case, but I'm sure there are rules that apply. I just don't know them. And you're absolutely correct. I'm sure that somewhere in the law citation world of Indiana and or even the federal courts, that there are some precedents out there about attorneys who have spoken about a case that eventually become involved in the case. Guarantee it's out there, and somebody will make sure that that is followed. Let's hope that's not what he did. They used voice to text. SP74. Steve, do you think there's a good chance Allen's previous attorneys were not completely forthcoming with him about all their screw ups? Absolutely. I think that is the case. Because I think some of the family was shocked that day. Is it safe to say that Baldwin and Rosie are recused, or what? Are we waiting until there's official word? Judge Gull's already said they're done. She won't even recognize anything they filed. They're done. Now, another court may come in and say, no, no, no. But right now, Judge Gull's original findings and her judgment and what she laid down says they're out of here. And it appears that the Attorney General says that, yes, she had cause, and that with that cause, it was justified. And so we'll have to see what the courts say, though. Just because the Attorney General says it doesn't mean that it's done. Hey, Steve, you catch any of Alex Murdoch's grandstanding since? No, I didn't. I heard that he smiled or something. Yes, that is a good point. That Garagos was on the Larry King when talking about Scott Peterson. I forgot about that. Laura, did Rosie and Baldwin hand over all the work that they have done to the new attorneys? Now, Judge Gull said that they're to return all discovery, but that they did not have to turn over their work product. So if they have a work product, they don't have to turn over. But now, will they share it? They may or may not. That'd be up to them. Was there anything that surprised you or stood out to you when visiting the Monon High Bridge or the actual crime scene in Delphi? Yes, there's a lot of things of how rough that terrain was and how visiting the crime scene at night that absolutely limits some of the activities that's in the rumor mills out there. The cell phones of the location of it bouncing all over town as we did our testing of cell phone signals and locations. There's a lot of things that we had out there that I found very interesting. Um, but and but it's extremely, and when a jury gets out there, they'll find and see a lot of those same issues. Yes, I'm gonna have a week of messy weather, but that's all right. It would be interesting. Maybe it's already done to get a video there made for maybe virtual reality. I don't know. VR. I'm old. I could be using wrong terminology. I don't know what VR is, but I'm sure that crime scene. There's some footage from a helicopter flashes that I'm pretty sure is some 3D imaging that was done on or was being done by CSI at the crime scene. So there's some that in the court they'll probably see some 3D imaging software. Anne has a vast, a much uh, more vast understanding of the courts and things, and I agree with that. This is probably exactly what's happening. Um, as far as the meeting and filling deadlines and throw as much sand in the works as they can till trial. Just using the terms throw as much sand in the works as they can till trial means that Anne uh, has worked in the field. Yeah, let's see, just trying to get caught up in chat, guys. let's see here. Even if there's cause to remove and no absolute right to choose to prove counsel, Steve, does a disqualification hearing still need to happen, or was that settled with voluntary withdrawing? Um, well, from what my understanding of reading how the Attorney General addressed it, that yes, it's okay, that there's not a disqualification hearing. But once again, I have to look at it that just because Judge Gulls says it's true, and just because the Attorney General says it's true, doesn't mean a higher court won't say. I mean, of course, they could absolutely say yes, that their voluntary withdrawing took care of everything. That they didn't want the, as they put it, public shaming, ambush. They didn't want all that on their work product being stamped that they have multiple times failed to do their duties as officers of the court. And so they withdrew. Laconic, I'm in Indiana, and the wind chill was 0 this morning. 40 is warm. Thanks for that. Thanks. Oh, man, there's nothing like, I'll be drinking a lot of coffee up there then. Thank you, Kelt. That's very kind of you. Molly says that I agree. Baldwin seems to have been downright sloppy with so many things. I'm surprised he's so respected. Maybe he just never got caught. I think in one of his statements, he said something that he, in all his years, there's nothing ever been proven. Wasn't that he wasn't accused of it, just nothing ever proven, which is, which is a wonderful statement. Oh, it's funny to me. Was the person who illegally took pictures of the crime scene photos have knowledge the pics would be there? This is a great question and a great point, because this is someone that had access and been consulted. I think on this case, I think it's out there. I may, if I misspeak, if I've misspoken, I apologize. But I think he had been used by this law firm, and even on this case, and if he's being used as a consultant, what had he seen before? What documents had he had access prior to? And is this just a window of opportunity for him to say, "Oh, this is when I got it," to take some of the heat off? I'm speculating, absolutely speculating there, but it is a possibility that that when he saw those things on the table, that it may have given him an opportunity because he already knew what was there, or it may have been, but it is interesting that an individual had been working with this law firm before, has access to them, and because most people wouldn't have recognized it for what it was, and but he did. All right. All right. Thank you, Johnny Kramer. The Music Movie Channel. What are the artificial intelligence and everything that's happening, and as our technologies advance in 3D imaging, we'll probably get to see a lot of this with the Koberger trial. May even get to see a lot of this with this case. If that was 3D imaging that was made and was being used, we saw some of it in the Murdoch case where they were bringing in the that technologies and showing the positions of the victims, trajectories, and we may see some of that with this case. We saw it with Murdoch, and the next generations of court proceedings, and as the technologies improve, and it will just be a matter of time before attorneys will be able to walk you through a crime scene almost as a first person, just like if you was working the crime scene, CSI. It's just a matter of time until all the CSI guys are, I remember a time when there wasn't even cameras in patrol cars. And when they came around, and then it went from cameras in patrol cars to body cams, and eventually it will be in CSI, same way. And so you'll be able to see the process. And I think it should be that when you're trying to put someone on trial, possibly for their life, that if the technology exists, it should be done. And that you can watch them collect that piece of evidence. And what will that do to the CSIs? It'll make them absolutely follow the rules. And and everyone at that point, when this occurs, and I know it's off topic a little bit, but it's something that will happen in the future. But you will have a true understanding of how long it takes to process something, and you'll see it firsthand, the effort put into collecting that evidence. Mr. Steve, do you think there's going to be more evidence leaks? Absolutely. It may not be, it will be related to the case. There will be leaks related to the case. Now, will it be through, I don't think it's going to happen through the court systems. You may have some through law enforcement. You'll have some through the searchers. You'll have some through the families. But I don't think you're going to have these attorneys anymore. But yes, there's always leaks. People have contacts. Oh, Kim Osada says, my understanding is a lawyer can use any person they want to assist in defense of a client. Baldwin could just put him on the case to be covered legally. I can't argue. I cannot put myself in the mind of Baldwin or anyone and why they do certain things. I've been there where I've asked myself, why is that person doing that? Who gave them the authority? And just watched them get out of line sometimes. And I do. I absolutely do. And it's coming. We're going to see. And when that arrives, then there'll be hours and hours and hours. And it should be. The integrity of the crime scene, the integrity of the evidence, at that point, there will be no doubt. Is there any concern that the digitizing and possible manipulation of evidence compromise the entire way defendant or defendants are looked at? Um, no, the process is always has evolved. I remember back before CSI, before state certifications of how crime scenes were worked and evidence and the how probable cause affidavits and search warrants were obtained. Um, if you look back at how they're done now and then, um, were they that bad? They were, there were some, um, they were far worse than what they are now, but they were done with intent for justice. And you have to swear to it regardless, to the best of your ability, that everything is true. So that part of it has always been there. But the understanding of how to collect evidence and the paper trail wasn't that great. There was a lot of times that, I picked this up from Deputy Joe last week. It was in the trunk for 2 weeks. That time is no longer allowed. And, so now there's chain of custodies and evidence lockers, and there's just so much better now than what it was way back when. Um, if you mean trial is not going to be until late 2024, I expect. I don't even think it's going to be 2024, guys. I really don't. Rosie should have distanced himself much further away from Baldwin, and he did. He distanced himself a little bit, but he also came back and did the thing that gained my respect. In the moment of need, he saw that due process may not be, I think there's a due process issue. And I'm not saying there was a due process issue, but he felt there was. And he stood up. And I respect that. This case has been digitally compromised since the beginning. That's possible. I just don't know how many pictures are out there. There should be hundreds of thousands because now with digital video and cameras and 3D imaging, there's any number of images out there that can be seen from just about any angle that you can get a moment in time. And so the crime scene is well documented, I'm sure, from that. And oh Lord, imagine cameras like that used during the OJ collection of evidence. And yes, and I know that they did it was sort of this same thing I was discussing, but it was from the outside cameras of the news media that was watching the collection of evidence, and how certain things occurred that we didn't change gloves, or what techniques were used in the collection of evidence. So it's somewhat of along those lines. Yeah, a relative was a juror, and they asked to see the cameras, and 5 officers had their cameras turned off. Yeah, that's not appropriate. Steve, do you share Ruckus's opinion there's another arrest coming? I can't say that I know of any one individual that I think would be arrested. And it depends on if there's additional crime scenes. And like I've always said, that and I'll stand by this regardless of the findings of this trial. If they can, if Libby and Abby were able to, and they can show that they got to that crime scene under their own power, I can see a lone wolf. If that lone wolf is Richard Allen or not, that's to be found out. But if they say that Libby and Abby didn't get there on their own power, then I don't know if an arrest will ever be made, but I think that they will be looking for someone to arrest. Carmack. Reference Carmack. Oh, I don't know. I don't know who. I don't know who he's referencing. He may have a lot better understanding than I do. All right. Johnny Kramer, the Music Movie Channel. Love that. Mr. True Crime Web, if I may ask, sir, can this case be ongoing, even if we have some of these people locked up and Allen waiting for trial? I believe that it can. And am I wrong, sir? Yes, we're going to move forward. The courts are going to move forward as you know. The attorneys, he has appointed attorneys. They're going to be working and filing as we move forward. The other courts that are higher, I expect within a few days and weeks we'll find out. Because Richard Allen, none of the witnesses, and if there's any key witnesses out there that have age on them, and they'll want those people because the closer we're already talking about a case that fit the definition of a cold case. So it's been, 6 years since this went on, and we're going on 7 years. And so memories are fading, evidence. So a lot of things are already, we're behind the 8 ball on. And so to get as fresh a memory and understanding of the crimes and everyone's before, like I said, time and exposure to different opinions of what you, and because all these witnesses are out there and some of them are probably watching YouTube channels, and will their testimony change? And so we have to be careful of that we don't, that they don't have the time to incorporate some of these other thoughts, and it corrupts their memory, because we always have to be mindful of that. So the sooner the trial can be, the better off we would be, in my opinion. I wonder if these OJ mistakes, some of them were from even the crime scene section that didn't fully understand the new DNA tech. Absolutely. And just like CSI now, how we process crime scenes now may be that in 10, 15, 20 years, it'll be so outdated of how it's collected. And so how will it be collected in the future? Who knows? All technologies evolve. I truly feel Keaton Klein and CSAM is connected to RA. It's possible. I mean, will they ever be able to prove that? I don't know. But I've always, like I said, there's a lot of coincidences, and there was a lot of things that Keaton Klein. Now, did he play a role of what was happening? And I can understand why law enforcement looked at him. If what that transcript show is half true on the day of, and the of what he contacts he made, and then he left the state and was researching, I can see why law enforcement was looking at him. And is there a connection? Just don't know yet. Let's see. Um, and the scientists did a horrible job explaining DNA to the jury. Yes, now, a lot of people, uh, probably most people out there, have a far greater understanding of DNA and the uniqueness of it, and how CSI collects it due to what we watch daily on our TV shows and these crime shows. And I believe society has a far greater understanding of DNA. And uh, but back, like I said, I remember when DNA wasn't was brand new on the scene, and they were giving us these Q-tip swabs, and we were understanding and learning how to take buccal swabs and all that from our suspects, air drying them, and even that process is is so old fashioned compared to what they do now. Horns or no horns, I wonder how he knew any branches, twigs were manipulated around the bodies. Um, that is an interesting thing. Is that something that because it was already out there, I'm sure at some point of, of through media coverage or some of the witnesses. And did he overhear, or was he talking to somebody and they had mentioned that, hey, there were some branches that were moved? I don't know, but it will be. I agree with you. That's a interesting question. Yes, there's Odin stuff has been out there for a long time, and I mean, before we even thought about, why was it out there, and so it could be from that very reason because he's part of that too. Yeah. Uh, uh, oh no, hold on. This thing jumped on me. Mama Wolverine. That's a great name. Did you say you're in Indiana? No, I will be by Thursday. I'll be in Indiana by Thursday. I think they want the people involved in this to be brought to justice so everyone can move on. Absolutely. I mean, that's what society we deserve, the families deserve, the victims deserve. All right. Well, I got caught up, guys. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And like I said, I didn't go over in great details of everything about this case and even in this document. But I want to tell you that this is the way I look at these things and trying to interpret it. You just go to the table of contents, and the table of contents will get you um, uh, what's needs to be discussed and what the findings are, and then you can look at the citation and see what the understanding of that. There's nothing new to the courts. They've seen it before, and they're going to see it again. And in the next trial where this comes up, we may see a legal citing of the Richard Allen case of Indiana versus Allen, and so we may see that. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. Let's see, maybe got another question or two. I tried to get all my questions up as much as possible. Uh, Thank you for the safe travels. Let's see. Mr. True Crime Web, sir, if I may ask, can we, the people, use any of these YouTube videos that knew about this crime scene to just, if it was years ago, just asking, sir, any of these YouTube videos? I can't speak for everyone out there on YouTube videos of what you can do with it, because YouTube has certain rules about strikes and stuff, so you have to be careful. So you don't want to lose your channel if that's the way you were talking about. But anyway, good to see Peggy. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I'll see y'all soon. I see some old friends in here, and y'all stay safe. And we look forward to talking to you. Like I said, it's going to be about a week or two before I get back. Like I said, I got several families I got to go work on, and I will get back with y'all just as soon as I can get back from Indiana. Thank you, guys. See you soon.